we were almost at the 5-year mark. We were so set up for postpartum life. Like I was taking 6 months off from teaching. It didn't work out that way. You really are on a high when the baby's first born, and then you think that that's gonna last forever, and you're kind of like, no sleep? Like, who cares? I can do no sleep. Like, this baby's amazing. And yeah, at the 6-week point, I was just like, I can't. Like, my mental health was starting to deteriorate. I hadn't left the house. I hadn't gone anywhere. I think we had gone out once, but in reality, I would have been back at the studio, you know, just at least visiting a month in. So at that 6-week point, I was just like, come inside, and my parents were, you know, ecstatic. I was watching them, you know, my mom, who's not an emotional person, cry outside of the window, you know, just them feeling like they were missing so much time with the baby that they were not gonna get back, so. July came, and I think like at that point I was like, we had saw our friends, we went out, and I remember we went to the beer garden. We were with Brittany and Nick, and we were downtown. We went back to Nick and Britt's, and then Alicia and Kyle came over, our other best friends, like we're always together. And when they left, I told Ty, I was like, I am depressed. My whole experience was not how I planned, which is usually how parenthood goes and giving birth goes. But I remember just standing, holding the baby and like crying and being like, I'm depressed. And then after that, Ty really went like on into this mode of like, I'm gonna make sure that Candace is okay. So we planned a week away at our cottage up north. And I remember from that point on, he was just like, we just need to get up north. We need to get up north for a week. We can be outside, we can see our family, we can do things. Like, so physically, I feel like I felt good. Like I was getting back in shape, I was working out, and that was good for Ty to see, but I think it was just more mental for me at that point. We're a service business, so we have to be in business to be paying our bills. Like people are coming into the studio to go to class. So I remember at that time the girls really pulled it together, and we were online. That was before I even gave birth. We went online, we did everything for free. The vision of going back in there one night when after the 6-week mark, when my parents were coming in, me and Ty went over there, and like everything in the studio was just dead. It was just eerie, you know, like it was just like, are we gonna open again? But I was at the cottage, and we were having a fire one night, and I just put my hands to my neck, and I just felt like a huge lump on my neck. Thank God, like I don't know why I would have even touched my neck, but like thank God that I did. That was Friday, we were at our cottage. I called the doctor, and I had told them, and they had booked me for a week or two later. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get it checked out in a couple weeks, like I just need to let it go. But I remember like we went home on that Sunday, so probably 3 or 4 days after I had found the lump, and I called them Monday morning, and I was like, I have to come in today, like I know something is wrong. My doctor is very incredible in terms of being thorough. I'm healthy, I'm 31, I just gave birth, like I have no symptoms of anything. They saw that it was a lymph node that was swollen, and that was the lump that I had felt on my neck. But they had also, you know, they only did a scan of this area, but they had gotten a little bit of my chest in there, and they could see that there was something in my chest. So when we went back a week later for the results with my doctor, Ty and I were in there, and I remember him saying, you know, this could be an infection, but it also could be cancer. We need to do a biopsy, and we're not going to know until we get in there and look at the cells, essentially. So I just knew at that point that, and I could tell from the way he was speaking, like, yeah, you have a lump on your neck, it could be this or that, but like you also have something in your chest. So they sent me back for another scan. They found a mass in my chest. We're sitting on the couch. He called while I was breastfeeding the baby, and he just said, this is Hodgkin's lymphoma, it's cancer, and you have to see the oncologist tomorrow. Like, what the fuck did I do to deserve this, basically, is how I felt. Not all the time, but there were a lot of times, you know, why is this happening to me? Like, what? Like, I've literally committed my entire life to being healthy. You know, why is this happening to me at 31 years old? They asked if I wanted to have more kids, and I said yes. And he just said like it was probably a good idea to freeze my eggs, but at the same time, with the mass in my chest, like he wanted to move quickly. So he was like, you know, if it was me, I would just say, you know, you just had a baby, like let's just start the chemo in 2 weeks. So I feel like I couldn't even think at that point, and I was like, okay, I need to think about my baby that I just had. Like some people can't even have kids. Like I had a baby, she is healthy. Worst case would be her not being healthy. So I need to I need to think about what I need to do for her to be here so that I don't have to like leave her behind and also leave Ty. So basically they booked everything, they rebooked me in for my surgery, and I remember looking ahead 2 weeks and being like, okay, so the Monday I'm gonna have surgery on my neck, and then Tuesday I would have off, then Wednesday I would go in to get surgery to get a porta-cap put into my chest. That would be Wednesday, and then Thursday I would go in for chemo. So I was just like dreading this week. It was just like surreal, and I remember just being like, how can I like escape this? Like, what can I do to like run away? You know, my feelings throughout it were just like, am I gonna die? Like, am I gonna die? I'm gonna die at 31? Like, I'm gonna die and I just gave birth? Like, I honestly didn't even think about MOVI. Yeah, I didn't think about the studio at all. I thought about the people that I care about. People would have been visiting me and they couldn't, so it was very secluding. You know, it was everything. It was everything in one house. Like it was like fear, trauma, sadness. It was just support and love. Like my mom, there is like no way to describe what my mom did for me. Like she dropped like everything for me. It was all dependent, but I found the first two, I had like this momentum of like, I'm gonna get this shit done. 6 months, because I remember sitting in the office and Ty, when we walked out and we got in the car, I remember Ty just being like, let it out, because he knew that I was like trying to hold it together. And then he was like, this is 6 months. Like this, we can do this. The last treatment, I felt very foggy afterwards, very disoriented and just sick. Like you could just feel the heaviness of, you know, bullshit running through, coursing through your veins. We came in, we had pizza, and I stayed up for like 4 hours, which was like bomb, because usually I was like, I'm going to bed right away. No, but there was a little bit of joy, you know, like there was tidbits of joy 100% through the 6 months, but it was like a prolonged joy. It wasn't like 15 minutes. It was like, okay, like we're here to celebrate because I'm done. It was very hard for all the students and for all my teachers to just say, I'm gonna keep going. Like they're in a pandemic, they're suffering, their friend is at home sick, they can't see me. I had really no contact with anybody there other than a couple of the girls that were running everything for me, which they did not have to do that, you know. I had originally said, I remember telling Becky, one of my best friends, and she works at the studio as well, I told her right after I was diagnosed, I said, I'm gonna close the studio. And she was just like, no, you're not closing the studio. Like you can close the studio later if that's your decision, but right now you don't have a choice. And I feel like my creativity is peaking right now, and I have a very clear vision of what I want and who I am. And although, you know, I've seen the depths of hell now, basically, I feel like I now can see, you know, this like really big light in things. Like the studio is just back, you know, like I'm just like, oh my God, like it feels so good to be back there, and I can just see the livelihood surrounding me, like with the community again, and just like the energy there. It's wonderful, yeah. So the revival campaign is like the revival of me, but not just me, like everyone's stepping back into the revived version of themselves, feeling like you can start again and you can leave some stuff behind from this past year and a half, and it can be a learning experience, it can be a trauma, like it can be everything, but it can still be left behind. You know, you can keep going. So it's, you know, feeling restored, feeling renewed, feeling revived, like, you know, starting again, and knowing that what we just went through is going to have long lasting effects, but like you have to keep going one step at a time. Like you can't just stop.